My name is François Régnier, and I'm delighted to be here with you today. So I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully we're going to see a tighter slide on screen shortly. Right. Right, Nelly, I believe everybody can see the screen. Yeah. Okay. So let's get started. So today's workshop agenda, we're going to look at different aspects on how to build a stronger brand for your business. We're going to look at first as when to make branding a priority. Then we're going to look at what prevents businesses from building a strong brand. Then we have a look at a case study, how to stand out in a saturated industry. And I will show you how we developed a standard brand for one of our clients. And finally, please stay with us till the end because I'm going to share with you the actual framework we use to build brand. So I will show you how to get started with branding. And at the end, we're going to have a live Q&A. So as Nelly mentioned, this meeting is recorded only for internal purpose. It's not going to be end up on YouTube. So feel free to jump on camera at the end of the session if you wanted to ask a question directly. But also feel free to share all your questions during the webinar. So how to get the most of today? We only have 40 minutes together for this presentation before the Q&A. I will share with you the very best I know for the last 25 years of working internationally in branding. So to get the most of today, I will welcome if you could have your camera on and your social media notification turned off. I aim to do this event a little bit like in-person event. I think it's a bit more interactive, it's a bit more friendly, it's a bit more productive. So if you can, thanks for having your camera on, and please put your phone and social media notification on pause for now. It's only for 40 minutes. Also, in order to make this a bit more interactive, there's going to be some little quiz and question during the webinar. So please do interact with the quiz. I aim to make them a bit fun and be interactive. And also at any time during the webinar, please type any questions you might have in the chat, and Nelly will very kindly collect them and we will answer all your questions at the end of this webinar. Brief introduction of myself. So my name is François Régnier. I am a brand strategist. I'm all about helping you to build an irresistible brand to enable you to cut through the noise, to stand out from competitors, and to attract high-value clients. Branding is about being more discerning about who you want to work with and not to work with anyone, but working with the best clients, the clients which are the most profitable for your business, but also the clients you enjoy the most working with. My contact details are in the chat, or they're going to be in the chat soon, so feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn or ping me an email after the webinar. So over the last 25 years, I've been lucky enough to work in 5 countries in person. I've worked with Disneyland in France, with Mercedes-Benz in Germany, with Smart Cars in Switzerland, and with Barclays and countless other brands in the UK, and also worked in Belgium. I am passionate about enabling mid-sized businesses to go to the next level, grow, and translate their vision into reality. So I believe like small business have a backbone of the economy, and to support small business outside my branding consultancy, I'm also a mentor with Virgin Startup. I am a business mentor for students with the University of Greenwich, and I'm also involved with the City of London Corporation and NatWest Accelerator. So please do feel free to connect and keep in touch after this webinar. The easiest way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. Oh, sorry, I think I'm going backward. Right, so let's break the ice and let's get to know each other a little bit. Please don't be shy and type in the chat, where are you dialing from and how do you feel? For example, I'm dialing from Rochester in Kent, and I'm very delighted to be here with you today. So please don't be shy and tell us where you are in the chat. Oh wow, we got Nanik with in Scotland in Edinburgh. Hi Nanik, nice to see you again. And then we got Lee in London, feeling great, fantastic. Who else have we got in a room today? We got Zosia from London, feeling awesome. Well, thank you so much for all of you contributing in the chat. Journey in London. Yeah, that's great. So the first thing I would like you to remember about branding is that it's an international language. What I mean by that is that over the years in these webinars, I had people dialing from all over the world, sometimes despite different time zone. We had on a couple of occasions people attending from the States, from West Africa, from Switzerland, from Eastern Europe. So branding is pretty much an international language that enable you to connect with people across language, borders, and cultures. Yeah. Um, so let's get started with this webinar in earnest, and let's have a look as to when to make branding a priority. As a business owner, of course, there's always too many things to do and not enough time, and branding can often goes on the back burner. But the reality is that although branding is often seen as a nice to have, your brand is the most visible part of your entire business. You can have the best software in the world, you can have the best product in the world, but at the end of the day, in today's online world, people will meet your brand before they meet you and before they meet your product and services. So it's worth keeping in mind how important a strong, attractive, and if possible, irresistible brand can be to boost your business growth and success. The reality is that, of course, as business owner, we cannot be specialists in all areas of businesses. And, often, the business owner I work with, they are extremely advanced in some area of what they do, but sometimes branding and marketing can be a slightly confusing subject for them. The problem is that, they do what they think is going to work, but they might not always get the result they think they're going to get. For example, I don't understand. Oh, sorry, I think my slide disappeared. Let's try again. Okay, sorry for this. Enter full screen. Hopefully little technical issue. So for example, what I hear often from business owner is that, they tell me, I don't really understand. I post every day on social media. I do all the things which I see other people doing that seems to be attracting success. But at the same time, also I invest a lot of time on social media and on being active. And, they feel they're being very busy, but not very productive. And the reality is that as business owner, of course, we all feel a lot of pressure in doing what other people do in order to be successful. Yeah, we feel like we have to do what everybody else is doing in order to be part of a crowd and in order to be seen as being active in the digital space. But the reality is that posting often and just being active without a sound strategy often is counterproductive. And I think what is really important is to clarify how branding and marketing need to work together. Yeah. So here's a definition of marketing I really, really like. Marketing is like asking someone out on a date. What I mean by that is that any type of marketing activity you undertake, it can be posting on LinkedIn, it can be doing YouTube video, it can be sending email mail shot, it can be attending events. Any kind of marketing activity you undertake is about getting the attention from somebody you want to have a conversation with, isn't it? So it's very much like asking them to go on a date with you. You say, here's who I am. I think we should be getting to know each other. How about having a conversation? And that's what marketing is. Yeah, it's very much about promoting what you do, your expertise to somebody you think might be interested. But this is just sending a message. But if marketing is like asking someone out on a date, branding is the reason they say yes. And that's really important because your brand is how you communicate what makes you different and better than the competition and why people should care. Yeah. So what we fall in love is the brand message, is the brand promise. And any marketing activity you undertake is only here to amplify your brand message. But if a brand message is not strong, if it's not clearly articulated, or if it's not relevant for your target audience, you know, doesn't matter how many dates we're going to try to attend, it's unlikely to be successful. So it's all about getting your messaging right before you start to invest a lot of time and a lot of money in marketing activities. And I've seen time and time and time again business owner complaining that social media doesn't work for them, or LinkedIn doesn't work for them, or Instagram doesn't work for them. But these are only tools, yeah, these are only platforms. What is important is, are you saying the right thing to the right audience? Another things as well, which I see happening very often, and which is actually a follow-up of what I just said, is very much putting the cart before the horse, yeah? So marketing and social media without a clear brand is a waste of time and money, yeah? So it's a different way to say it as well. So if you're not getting today the result you expect from investing lots of time and resource in promoting your business, you might want to pause and really aim to review what you're saying, not from your point of view, but from your ideal client point of view, from your audience point of view. Because even if what you're saying makes complete sense to you, it might not resonate with your end audience as well as you would like to. Yeah. So what are the signs you need to work on your brand as a priority? So I suggested a couple, but they tend to be the same across all businesses, regardless of the size and industry sector. Yeah. So one of the common reasons sometimes is a lack of relevance. Your current brand is old and tired. And often we feel, that our business has changed. We pivoted the business. We got the business internally has changed a lot. But if your brand and the way you communicate doesn't reflect that, if your brand is still the same as it was 5 years ago when you were, a very small startup working in a bedroom, and that now you are an established business, the way you communicate and your brand need to reflect that. Yeah, people cannot double guess how your business is like from the inside. They will judge you on face value. Yeah, as the saying goes, a book is judged by its cover. Then lack of visibility, struggling to cut through the noise. This is a problem that everybody face. You can be a startup, or you can be Apple or Coca-Cola. There is a reason why this big corporation spends millions in marketing, because they want to stay top of mind. Yeah, especially in today's online space. So visibility is a priority, and visible businesses don't grow. One thing as well, which is really, really important, having a great product and service is important, but lacking differentiation, not standing out from competitors, can be something that holds back many businesses. What I mean by that, you can have a better product or better services, but if your audience doesn't really understand what makes you meaningfully different and better than your competitors, they will think you're the same, isn't it? And the impact of all this, obviously, is that if a business is not visible, if it's not relevant, and if it doesn't differentiate, that will directly impact, revenue, sales, and profit margin. Yeah. What I found is that a lot of small businesses are not charging what they're worth because they're not communicating their added value in a way which is crystal clear, transparent, and attractive to their audience. So these are some of the signs. Obviously, the more box you can tick, the more urgency there is in probably pausing a little bit and making time for your brand. Yeah, uh, leaving it on the back burner is not going to help. It's not going to fix itself. Yeah, it's an important area of business that needs attention and work. So, and obviously the other side of a coin is that when you have a strong brand which really resonate with your target audience, your brand becomes like a silent salesperson working for you 24/7, because every time people come across your brand, your business makes a positive impression, and you're already making a first step towards establishing a positive relationship with your target audience. So a strong brand achieves high relevance in your marketplace. Your brand shows you at your best. Imagine if the way you communicate was really showing you at your very best 24/7. I'm sure you'll agree that it will make everything else much easier. Yeah. Secondly is high visibility. Obviously, once you got a clear, well articulated and irresistible message, and it's easier to stand out because people see it and say, that's interesting, tell me more about it. Ironically, the stronger the brand, the less you'll end up spending in terms of time and money on marketing, because every single social media post, every single blog article, every single YouTube video will work much harder for you. Yeah. And also, you achieve high differentiation. Clients see why you're the best option. If you think about all these famous brands, luxury brand, Mercedes-Benz, Apple, Rolex, they are highly differentiated from their competitors. They are not 10% different. They're like 80% different from the rest of the competition. Yeah, they make the entire competition completely irrelevant. Imagine if you could do the same for your business. And all this means to higher pricing. So if you're in a position where you're constantly competing on price, when you find yourself struggling to charge above what is seen as the average market rate, and you have a better product, you have more expertise, is because your value, your added value, is not visible to others in a way that make them think, yes, I understand why this costs more and I'm happy to pay for it. And of course, this leads to higher sell. So as we can see, a strong brand is not something which is abstract and fluffy, but it is something that directly impact every aspect of a business and of course, the financial performance of a business. Yeah. So we covered a few points here. I'll be very interested to know what is your key takeaway. Is there one thing that really, resonated with you? Please type it in the chat. What's the one thing that you felt was useful? So we got Seb telling us your brand is your 24/7 sales. Yes, I mean, that's a reality, yeah, because every single post you've made, every single video works for you 24/7. So if your brand message is really, really sharp, it obviously helps with your business promotion. Nanik shares with us, brand needs to be memorable and meaningfully different from competitors. Yes, and meaningfully different is really important, yeah, because the reality is that today is very rare that we can claim we do something completely unique, yeah, but as long as you are meaningfully different from others, we achieve our goal. Robin, not being able to charge what we are worth because we don't know how to present the intangible aspect of your service. Yes, and intangible is an important word, sorry, because if you sell an expertise, by definition, people can only see the value of your expertise once they worked with you, isn't it? And once you delivered the project. But just because it's not visible doesn't mean that it's not highly valuable and doesn't mean that you cannot make it tangible to your audience. And Jenny, and this time in getting branding right before marketing, that's really important. And that's a mistake that so many business owners make. They rush into marketing without having clarified what their brand should say. Zosia shares with us a takeaway is that my audience needs to understand what my brand is about. It's obvious, but it's sometimes hard to communicate what I do in a clear way. Don't worry, Zosia, you're not alone. It's a common problem to communicate, to translate what a business does in a brand message. Yeah. And knowing and June share with us knowing about a strong brand. Thank you for all of you for sharing. So now let's have a look at the second part of this presentation. So now we've seen how important a strong brand is and how powerful a strong brand can be in enable you to improve your overall business performance. But As we all know, branding often goes into the back burner. So here we're going to look at what prevents businesses from building a strong brand. What are the main roadblock and obstacle that prevent them to, look at the brand? Obviously, the first thing which we hear all the time is that it's going to cost too much. Yeah. And I think I can understand why, because when we talk about branding, or when we hear about branding in the media, or we always hear about this very big company, massive corporation who have spent millions of pounds to tweaking their logotype and to turn them from dark blue to light blue, and it sounds like it is a huge investment. But the reality, like any other aspect of a business, it needs to be an investment which is meaningful for you uh, at a particular point in time. Yeah, but it is an investment. Yeah, but as we saw earlier, your brand is not gonna fix itself. Yeah, it's not something that grows organically just by miracle. Yeah. Here's a quote from Charlie Munger, who used to work with Warren Buffett, and I think that relates to branding really well, because it says the company that needs a new machine tool and hasn't bought it is already paying for it. Yeah. So a company who has a weak brand, or a brand which is not visible, which is confusing, which is not clear, is already paying for the cost of not having a strong brand. Yes, it's a bit like our health. Yeah, if we're not looking after our health, if we're not investing in our health, we people who are not as healthy as they could be are paying the cost of not being healthy. Yeah. So just because we haven't signed a check or the money didn't leave the bank account doesn't mean that there is no negative cost for our business if we don't do what we should be doing. Yeah. I think it's important to realize, like, the cost of not doing something is the same or sometimes more expensive than actually doing it. Yeah, and it's often obviously the fallacy of false economies. So now let's have a look about why I feel strong brand is vital in 2025. I mean, this is not only for 2025, but I would say in a post-pandemic world, yeah, in a world which is more and more digitally led, why having a strong brand is such a vital asset, not only to achieve growth, but also to sustain growth and to sustain a healthy business over a period of time. The first reason is impact, and it's all about cutting through the noise. As we've seen, invisible businesses don't grow. The second is differentiation, standing out from your competitors. So your first challenge as a business owner is first to be visible, but once people see you, they need to understand why you're different and better than the competition. That's the second battle to win. And the third battle to win, when they say, okay, I can see why they're different, but why are they charging 3 times more than everybody else? This is when you communicate premium value. So if you achieve the magic of differentiating and at the same time conveying higher value, then it's much, much, much easier when you get to talk to your potential clients, because they will come into the Zoom call or the face-to-face meeting with you already pre-sold in some way in your value. And the meeting you're going to have with them is not going to be some kind of hard sell meeting, but it's going to be more about confirming a decision they're already in the process of making. Yeah. So let's break this down a little bit more. Why is impact so important? Yeah. Invisible businesses don't grow, they stagnate at best. Yeah. And it's a harsh reality for all businesses, whether you're big or small. The reason why big brands like L'Oreal and Coca-Cola make so much advertising 24/7 is that they know very well, like, if they stop being visible for a period of time, they will slowly fade into invisibility and irrelevance. And I'm sure we can all think about very, very, very famous brands which were extremely famous 20 years ago that nobody talks about anymore. Yeah. So here's some data and a little quiz. If you had to take a guess, for example, On LinkedIn, how many posts, articles, and videos are published on LinkedIn every day? So that's our little quiz. Please have a guess and type your answer in the chat. Okay, so we got Seb, millions. Okay, Nanik, 1 billion, and Seb, too many. That's a fantastic answer. Seb, yes, probably too many. So here's some data I could find, reliable data. Unfortunately, it's only from 2023, but in 2023, over 2 million posts, articles, and videos are published on LinkedIn every single day. Yeah, and I'm sure today we can probably add another million to this. Yeah, and I remember when I used to post on LinkedIn, I used to spend ages writing posts, and and there's so much and things like this. And then when I used to get one like after a week, I was getting a bit disappointed because I was putting my heart and soul in creating content, and somehow I didn't seem to get much visibility. But that's the reality of it. It's really hard to cut through the noise. Doesn't mean that your content is not valuable, doesn't mean that your business doesn't have something very useful and interesting to say. It's just that there is so much noise. Yeah, but when you have a very simple, striking, and memorable brand message that cuts through the noise like a razor, then it's much, much, much easier to cut through the noise. Another thing to keep in mind is that in 2023, bots, which are these little digital robots that live on the web, accounted for just under 50% of all internet traffic. Yeah. In December last year, it was predicted, like in 2025, AI-powered bot will dominate 99% of all online activity and content. And one thing we need to be very, very aware of, and more, is that when we're communicating online, when we're trying to promote a business, we, of course, we competing against competitors or direct competitor industry, but not only, because you're competing for attention against your direct competitor in your industry, yeah, but also content created by celebrities, influencers, teenagers, and big brands. If we look at this phone, yeah, you can see there's like cat video, there's like funny video, all sorts of content which appear on your audience screen next to your post. Yeah. And the reality is that we competing with content creators which are sometimes even non-human. Yeah. And I think I don't see this in a pessimistic way, because the reality is that the challenge is that how will you stand out and become visible to potential client? As human being, we still, I think, have much of an edge, because we can change our mind very quickly. We can try things. We can make mistakes. So this is not something to say that you shouldn't do it, but keep it in mind. And the more authentic and the more connection you can create with your audience by being genuine, human, and authentic, the more you will stand out. Because don't forget, like, many people might get a bit lazy and just use AI as a shortcut, and they don't use it very well. I'm sure we all receive messages on Instagram and LinkedIn that looks very artificial and fake, and we can tell straight away this is from a robot. Yeah. So authenticity, a genuine message, and people can feel if you really care about making a connection with them. Yeah, and this is where a genuine brand message, which is really linked to your genuine business purpose, is so important. Now, differentiation. Now you are on somebody phone screen, they've seen your post, they've seen your blog article, they're interested in what you do, they think, okay, that's something I might be interested to buy, but why should I look at them as a potential business partner when there is so many people out there doing the same thing? Here's something as well which might surprise you, but which will hopefully illustrate why a strong brand message is so important. Here's another quiz for today. At which point do most potential clients decide to buy from you? Is it before or after they talk to you? Please type your answer in the chat. So we see before, after, yes, probably before. Yeah. Who else wants to have a guess? Probably before. So we seem to be more inclined to vote towards before. Yes, and this is the reality. So this is data that comes from Google, but was it Google or Amazon? I can't remember. One of these two. But 70% of most purchase decision is made before the first contact via phone or email. Yeah, and that sounds like a very far-fetched claim, but I will show you an example which actually will illustrate why is it that even us, everybody in this room, we will make most of a purchase decision before we actually talk to somebody. What I'm talking about here, of course, is like big purchase decision. Yeah, I'm not talking about ordering a pizza on the web or buying a pencil from Amazon. I'm talking about an important decision where there's a significant risk or investment. Yeah. But the reality is that most of the important purchase decision, the decision purchase is actually made, majority of decision purchase is made before we actually interact with a person we want to buy from. And it's actually the same for your potential clients. Yeah. I will show you how it works in terms of psychology. Let's imagine, we're looking about buying a new car. Yeah, we want to buy a new car in 2025 because we need to replace our current car. What kind of process goes through our mind psychologically when we decide to buy a new car? We've made this decision to buy a new car. Are we going to go on the same day and buy the car? Of course not. We might spend days, weeks, or sometimes months before actually buying the car. What kind of process goes through our mind during this period? The first thing we might do, if we haven't bought a car for, let's say, 5, 6 years, is to look at all the cars in the street. And then we start to notice some cars which seems to be very popular. Why is it that somebody is driving, that brand of car? Or why is it that, we don't see that brand of car anymore? So consciously or not, we will scan our environment to look for information. Yeah. And we might notice some cars we like and some cars we don't like. The second thing we'll probably do is to ask our friends, our family, and all the people we trust for recommendation. We might call a friend or an uncle who bought a new car last year and ask them, so how's your new car? Do you enjoy it? Is it a good car? Will you recommend it? If you had to buy a car today, what would you buy? That's usually the second step. Yeah. The third step, of course, if you're like me, you will spend far too much time online looking at video review, car magazine, rating, and all sorts of technical tests. But basically, we do our homework, yeah, and we do like some desk research, some primary research. We really, unless we need to buy a car in emergency, it's very likely we do this kind of research, whether we do it over 2 weeks or 2 months, yeah. The next step, of course, is gonna, once we shortlisted a car we like, is gonna be to book a test drive with a dealership, and let's say we'll be interested to buy a Mini, yeah? But here's the thing, the majority of a purchase decision is made before the first email or phone call. Because when you think about it, at which point does the Mini dealership knows that I'm interested into buying a Mini? They only know it very far down the process once I've shortlisted the kind of car I want to buy. Yeah, there's no way the Mini leadership is going to know what I'm interested into buying their car until I will book the test drive or I will send them an email for their website. Yeah. And as you can see, a lot of the decision process took place before I had an interaction with somebody I want to buy from. And this is the same when it comes to your business. People will judge you on your LinkedIn page. People will judge you on your website homepage. People will judge you on what you say online. And unfortunately, if they don't like what they see, they might silently walk away before you even know their name. Yeah. And this is why, the cost of not having a brand which is communicate what it should communicate to promote your business and to put your business in the best possible light as a cost, which is a negative cost, which appears at the end of the month, on the bottom line as to sales which didn't take place. Yeah. And the reality, it doesn't matter how good you are at pitching your business, it doesn't matter how great your product and service is. If something has turned away your client, potential client, before you got the chance to pitch to them, that's it. Yeah. And unfortunately, psychologically, this is how, as human beings, we operate. Yeah. And I'm sure, I took the example of a car here, but if you think about any big purchase you've done, whether it is a private purchase or for your business, which was a significant investment, which has an element of risk, and which was really important, you did your homework and a lot of homework before you interacted with a human being. So I hope that clarifies a little bit why and how 70% of most big purchase decisions will take place before the first email or phone call. So the next aspect, and which is so important, so we assume now that we achieve two things. We've been highly visible to your potential client. We managed to differentiate, so then they know that we are somebody worth considering seriously as a potential business partner. But guess what? Your rate is much higher than some of the company they're looking at, and they're a bit unsure. They say, oh, we like what you do, but why is it that you're so much more expensive than everybody else? Yeah. And a confused mind doesn't buy. The reality is that when people tell me, oh, clients these days, they don't have any money, they always go to the cheapest supplier, that's not true. Especially in B2B relationship, people will always pay more for the reassurance of first working with an expert, secondly, for the reassurance of things not going wrong. Yeah. People will never cut corner for something really important. When we look at the example of a car, all of us, when we buy a car, we might be looking at price, but we'll never buy the cheapest car if we know it's not safe. Yeah. We will buy first the safest car, or the car we know is safe when we drive this car, before looking at the price. And I'm sure we all agree on it. Yeah. So often, when I see clients telling me, oh, in my industry, nobody wants to spend money. Well, you won't find there's always a few companies in every industry that gets the best client and that charge a premium price because they are the one who are known and trusted. And this is why people are happy to pay more to work with them. Differentiation is so important because when you are the same as everybody else, you will always compete on price. A weak brand equals low price. Here, I'm going to use a very simple and generic example, but that applies to anything, whether you sell software, expensive product, services, anything. Let's say, for example, I want to buy a black t-shirt. Yeah, I want a black t-shirt because I need a black t-shirt. I can go online, I can go to a supermarket, I can go to a market, I can go to, I'm sure within 30-minute drive from my house, there's probably 20 places where I can buy a black t-shirt. And there is hundreds of places online where I can buy a black t-shirt, which means I can probably get, a generic black t-shirt for around £10 because everybody's selling a black t-shirt and it's a generic product. Yeah. And if you're a company producing black t-shirt, you might think, how? This is terrible. I can never sell my t-shirt for more than £10 because everywhere people go, the average price for a t-shirt is £10. Guess what? Here's a Burberry t-shirt, yeah, and a Burberry t-shirt sells for £390. That's how much you have to pay for a Burberry t-shirt. And guess what? They are always out of stock. How ridiculous is it? Why is it that people will spend nearly 400 times more for a t-shirt just because it's got Burberry's logotype on it? Is it a better quality t-shirt than a £10 t-shirt? Probably to some extent. I will hope it is a much better fabric. I will hope the color will last longer, and I will hope it will last you years instead of weeks. But is it still 400 times better? But the reality, and this is what is really important here, Are people really buying a black t-shirt or are they buying a Burberry t-shirt? And that's a very important difference, as you see, because you can buy a black t-shirt from anywhere, but you can only buy a genuine Burberry t-shirt from Burberry. And one, with your brand, you can communicate, but the level of expertise you have to offer, your secret sauce, the way you do things, the quality of innovation is only available from you. Then paying a premium for working with you is not paying a premium, it's just having access to your unique expertise. Yeah. So, and maybe something to think about when it comes to your business. How can I package my unique expertise so it's crystal clear to everyone that what I'm offer, my experience, my innovation, my customer service, everything I package, in the way I package it is only available from me. Yeah. And that's where you will find it's much easier to charge what you're worth. And you're moving from selling a product, which everyone can easily copy and duplicate, to selling a brand which is unique to you. Yeah. Think about, for example, music industry. If you think about Beyonce, you can only buy Beyonce music from Beyonce. Yeah. You can't buy it from anywhere else. So branding is about giving your business a meaningful difference and some level of uniqueness. So out of these three reasons that really I feel are really crucial for all businesses who are serious about growing to invest in branding, what really resonated the most with you? And if you have any comment, please put them in the chat. What is the one thing you felt was the most useful? Okay, I can see maybe we're lost in thoughts, so it's okay. Right. Look, other thing we can have a chat at the Q&A. So now, I'm going to make this a bit more tangible for everyone. I'm going to show you a case study. It's a client we've been working with for a few years, and this is really to illustrate how to stand out in a saturated industry. Yeah, because I was talking about Beyonce earlier. In the artistic profession, whether you're a painter, a singer, or an actor, by definition, what you're selling is a creative product which is unique. But imagine if you work in an industry where everybody is selling the same thing and doing it in the same way. So how are you going to differentiate? That's a massive challenge, isn't it? So let's have a look as to how we can achieve that feat. Here's another quiz. If you had to take a guess, how many accounting firms are registered in the UK? If you had to guess, how many accounting firms are being active in the United Kingdom? Does anyone want to have a guess? Uh, yeah, Nanik, tell us 25,000, Seb, 5,000. Yes, there's quite a few. There's quite a few. So I've got some data. When I try to look for reliable data, it's always a few years old. So in 2022, there was just under 43,000 accountancy firms registered in the UK. So I think we can probably assume that today is probably around 45,000 or maybe 46. But as you can see, that is a lot of accountancy firm. And the big challenge when you are an independent accountancy firm is that the very nature of what you sell is very, very similar to what your competitors are selling. Yeah, I'm sure we could agree that there's only one way to file VAT, which is the correct way, and also there's a little bit of flexibility in how you can file your account. I'm sure you can all agree that the term creative accountancy doesn't have very good press. Yeah. So by definition, a chartered accountant will have an expertise which is very, very similar to another chartered accountant. So, which can be very, very challenging, especially in a world, where everybody is becoming digital and there's a lot of accountancy services which now businesses can do by themselves using software, for example. They can do their own bookkeeping and all this. So the accountancy industry has gone through a huge disruption over the last 15 years, and they really have to reinvent themselves. But they got the added challenge of selling things which is not totally unique to them. So here's an accountancy firm I've been working with. They are called One Click Accountant. And before we worked with them, this is how they used to market themselves. And there's nothing really wrong with that kind of approach, but I'm sure you agree with me that if you look at their website homepage and if you look at their Facebook page, it is nice, it is neat, but it is very similar to what you will expect from so many accountancy firms to look like and say. Yeah. So basically, they were not differentiating very much or at all in the industry. And secondly, they were doing a mistake that so many businesses do, especially financial businesses. They were detailing the services and expertise a little bit like a restaurant menu, rather than having a message which is a bit more meaningful and attractive to the audience. Because if you're just detailing an expertise, which many of your competitors have as well, you're not really cutting through the noise. Yeah. So this is where they were at. So they were doing quite well as a business, but they could see that they were hitting some kind of glass ceiling, and they wanted to prevent further problem down the line by the fact that with AI and all this, they're running the risk of not staying relevant in a fast changing world. So this is where we worked with them on defining. It's what we discussed earlier. Start by defining what your brand is and stand for. Yeah, and I explained to them, let's stop any kind of marketing you're doing at the moment. Let's go back to the drawing board and let's really think as to what will make people say yes to work with you and only with you. And what we found out, and obviously it's a very shortcut case study, is that the level of care they were giving to the client in terms of being personable and being very sensitive to not only the financial aspect of a client's business but also their whole well-being, if you will, as a client. They're really caring so much about the client. Like this became what we define as a key differentiator, and it's something they were doing very well, but they were not communicating at all in their previous brand and marketing. And this is how we come up with this new brand. So we don't just care about the numbers, we care about you. And what One Click Accountant is selling now, what they're offering to the client, of course, they're very good at accounting and all aspects of dealing with finances, but what they really provide to the client is peace of mind. Yeah. So they transition from selling a technical expertise, which many other people in the expertise in the industry can sell, yeah, to conveying something which is more authentic to who they are, which is more unique to who they are, and which actually is very much about the ultimate benefit. For example, they work with a lot of contractors or small businesses who are very stressed out, and basically they give them premium peace of mind. So when they go on holiday or when, there's everything is being looked after. And as you can see as well, the brand color is this bright yellow because it's all about, having positive energy in other people's life. And it's not about, being boring and stuffy. They're very approachable. They're very, they have a human touch to what they do. But first, we have to define a core value proposition, which is conveying to the world how much they care about their client well-being. And then this has been translated into a visual brand. So for example, this is the brand guideline we defined for them. So as you can see, the choice of color, typeface, and imagery is all about conveying some kind of feeling. Yeah. Feeling of energy, of being personable, of being dynamic, but also reassuring. And this has been translated in all sorts of content, in printed materials, in brochure, in LinkedIn post. So we go back to this idea of, marketing is asking someone on a date and branding is why they say yes. All the marketing activity are amplifying one single core messages, which is about caring about the client's peace of mind and well-being. And they even spell it out on their website. As you can see on this page, they don't talk about tax return and VAT and whatever and the next budget by the chancellor. They convey how much they care as to making sure running your business is a rewarding experience, and how they can support you in making you running your business as easy as possible. Yeah. And we spend time with them, working on the verbal language, the visual language. This is the LinkedIn page, making dealing with an accountant as easy as one click. So for example, we've done a lot of copywriting with them, but it's always about amplifying one single core message. For example, this is the team. As you can see, I don't know if you've seen, there used to be a trend with in the finance sector with very harsh black and white corporate portrait. For them, we decided, let's not have photographs, let's just have a quirky little illustration. It's just about conveying the human touch and the friendliness of a team. Yeah, it's little things like this which make a huge difference. And through this, and this is the LinkedIn newsletter, more than just accounting, where they really share some, simple advice on how to make your business finance easier. It has been much easier for them to attract bigger businesses, because the bigger businesses at the head, they tend to have very stress managing director. And what they're not looking for, they're looking for an accountant, but they're looking somebody who can take the stress away from them. Yeah. And this is what they find by working with one-click accountant. So I hope that illustrates the power of transitioning from selling an expertise, which many people in your industry will be able to offer, to having a unique brand message, or at least meaningfully unique, yeah, in your space, that makes you highly visible, highly differentiated, and that convey your premium value to your ideal audience. Yeah. And now, everything they've been doing for the last 3 years, and they're doing more and more, is amplifying one core message which genuinely links to who they are, which is authentic, and which works. Yeah. So it's all about amplifying this message in different ways, for blog article, LinkedIn post, brochures, and all sorts of things. And by doing this, they create a virtuous cycle, of building relationship. And when people come to them, they're already interested, if you will, and they're clear as to what's the unique value one-click accountant can bring to the business. So I hope that illustrates a little bit how powerful working on your brand can be. Now, I won't leave you empty-handed, because I would like you to be able to have some actionable things you can do to work on your brand after this webinar. So how to get started with branding today? And here again, the roadblock is, how do I get started? Yes, because we might get motivated, we might get interested, but often it's like, sounds like a lot of work, and where do I need to start? I would like you to please to be open to two ideas, which are very simple ideas, which my clients always found very, very, very useful. The first idea, and big idea, like all big ideas, it's very simple. Yeah. The big idea is that brand building is easier when you follow a clear step-by-step process. I know, and I've heard for so many years, so many clients telling me that for them, branding is a bit like black magic. Yeah, it's there's a kind of mystery process which they don't understand, they don't know how it works, it's totally confusing, and somehow it works. When we work with our clients, it's very much like building a house, or about building something with Lego. Yeah, we go step by step. And the idea is that, by building your brand with clarity and confidence, you own the process, you know what works, and you know why it works. When I show you a one-click case study, obviously something that took month and month to produce, but we held the hand for the entire process. I didn't turn up one day and told them, oh, everything's going to be yellow and this is what we're going to say. They own the process, and they were part of a creative process. So they were really confident that it was them. Yeah. So that's the first big idea. And the second big idea is that strong brands are built on solid strategic foundations. Yeah. So when we did this work for One Click Accountant, it is not some kind of idea I just came up with, which was totally unrelated to who they were as a business or as an individual. It was an integral part of who they were already, but they just didn't really know how to communicate it. Yeah. So sometimes we need to dig deep to really build high. Yeah. And the reality is that strategy takes time, takes a bit of work, but it's like everything. If you want a strong house, you need to have strong foundation. So I'm going to share with you very quickly, because we're reaching the end of this webinar, a little secret. So all these brands, Mercedes-Benz, Sony, Smart, Barclays, Disneyland, Kellogg's, and many other brands you can think of, very, very famous brands who've been around for decades, if not hundreds of years, they are all built on the same pillars. Yeah. I've worked with some of these brands, and I created this brand building process, which basically is built on four things. And if you get these four things right, it gives you pretty much four strong foundation and a secret sauce, which is unique to the business. We go through this quickly, and then I will give you a free resource you can use after this webinar to use them in your business. So the four pillars of strong brand, if you think about it, about four pillars for like a house or for a construction. The first one is your brand purpose. This is why you exist beyond selling something or being financially profitable. Your purpose is never what you sell as a service, as a product. It goes beyond that. Yeah. And as a founder, there's often something more than money that drives us in launching a business. Yeah, we want to make a positive difference in the world, but that needs to be very clearly articulated both internally and externally, and so people get it. Yeah. The second thing, and this is where often people trip a little bit, this is your brand principles, which is how you will grow. Yeah. What I mean by that, if your purpose is, let's say, to ensure like every child in the world has access to clean water, for example, your brand principle is how to show the world what you're going to do to make it happen. Because having an inspiring purpose is great, but people need to see how you're going to make it happen. And it's the same as well in how you're going to delight your clients. Yeah. Let's think, for example, if you're in the UK, about John Lewis. Yeah. John Lewis, I've been using for decades, never knowingly undersold. I think never knowingly undersold, I believe, which means if you buy a product from John Lewis, if you can find it cheaper somewhere else, a few weeks or a few months later, they will reimburse you the difference. Yeah. What is very interesting with this particular example, I don't know if you were aware, they stopped using it for a few years, and they only reintroduced it 2 years ago because they realized people were losing trust a little bit in John Lewis, and it was something people valued so much about John Lewis. So think about your brand principle as to how you're going to delight your clients. One of the brand principles for One Click Accountant, for example, is always on time. Yeah. And in one sentence that express an entire philosophy as to how they're going to make sure, they're always on top of a game to help their client, always on time. The third pillar is your brand positioning, and it is your what. What makes you unique or meaningfully different in your industry? That is this little thing. Sometimes it can be a little thing. You don't have to invent time travel or an entire new kind of AI to be different. Sometimes there's a little thing you do differently from everyone else, which is meaningful enough. As we've seen with One Click Accountant, they really, 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 really care about their clients. Yeah, and that's a little thing that makes them meaningfully different. And the last thing, once you got all this, you need to package it with a brand personality. So are you trendy, hip and dynamic, Or are you more, reassuring, calm, and, all about, reassuring your audience? If you're targeting 14-year-old teenage girls, obviously your brand personality needs to be very different. Like if you're targeting a pensioner who looking for a new home, isn't it? And it's very much who you are as a brand, what kind of visual and verbal language you use. And by working on these four things, that's only the four things you need to do. Yeah, that's all you need. You can create a unique brand and a system which is scalable, easy to use, which is jargon free, and we can use for years. Yeah. So if you're interested to know more about this, we created a little online quiz, and I believe the link is going to be in the chat. So basically, you answer 30 questions, and it enables you to discover your score for purpose, positioning, principles, and personality. So I think it takes around 5 minutes to take. You got 30 questions. And if you do it this week, I will also personally look at your results. And next week, I will send you a little PDF report with like some personalized comment and actionable tips. Yeah. So I hope this is useful. We've been covering a lot of content. I know it's a lot to take on, but feel free to connect on LinkedIn with me afterwards or ping me an email. And I think now, I hope we've got a bit of time for the Q&A. Nelly, let us know if we got some question, please.
So, unfortunately, because we did run over a little bit, we can do maybe 2 questions if we can keep it quick, guys. But I will put Francois's contact details in the chat as well, so you can absolutely follow up with him if you've got anything directly. But if anyone wants to race to get 2 questions in, go for it.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I went a little bit, longer than planned. But,
That's fine. It's just a useful session, Francois. It's not your fault.
do you have any questions in the chat? Or?
Not at the minute.
If you don't have a question, I'll be interested to know, if possible, if you can let me know what was the one thing that was really useful for you at this webinar, and also one thing you're going to do in the next 30 days to work on your brand.
We've had a question come through, actually. We've got one from Nanik here. Regarding one accountants, it is quite easy for a brand to claim that they care, but to deliver this, it has to become part of the core culture. Did your client really believe in this? Brings me to the purpose and core reason to exist.
Yes, and that's a fantastic question. Thank you, Nanik. And the reality is that this is something they already been doing for years. So they were basically they had some clients. They have some clients abroad, some clients been for decades. So when I got to know them and all this, I realized they were really personable, and they were really caring, as a business for the clients. But as you remember, if you remember the first slide I showed you when I showed you that old website, that wasn't communicated at all in the way they marketed themselves. So this is what I'm saying. I didn't create something artificial, we just stuck on them to make them look nice or attractive or cool. It was who they were as a business, but they were not communicating at all. And the reality, that's a very fantastic question for another reason, is that often as a business owner, we can't really see what's the little thing that really makes us different, that makes us, often it's hard for us to see what people really love the most about us, because we're telling us, oh, people, they want us to, do the thing on time, and we do this and that. Yeah, but how does that work? How do you, if, for example, if it has been another accountancy firm, yeah, and then I realized through talking with them, like they were, I don't know, very into AI or speed and efficiency, getting really, you see what I mean? The message will have been different. And I think there's actually a well-known phrase in the world of advertising which says dishonest advertising is like putting lipstick on the gorilla. Yeah. So this is a place for the 1950s. And I think it's really good that you ask this question, because, and I think for all of us, our brand needs to really reflect something which is genuine and authentic about us. Because if you say something and spend so much time communicating it and get people interested, and then what the experience is is not really special or completely different, yeah, then we got a problem. And I'm sure you heard over the last 5 or 10 years, all these big companies will got into so much trouble because they were said, they were caring about people and the environment. And then, it appears like all the factories were in countries where people were not treated very well and with no proper and exploited. Yeah. So an authentic brand is in today's world, especially, if what you deliver is not aligned to the way you communicate, people can be very unforgiving. Yeah. So with one-click accountant, what I found often with clients is that obviously they expect me to be creative, but I spend a lot of time listening to them because often full conversation with them, they will tell me what it is that makes them unique, but they don't really, it's not very clear, or they don't really, and actually they say, isn't it really what you're about? And then they pause and they say, yeah, but we've done it for years, and but people never say thank you, things like this. So yeah, so I think as businesses, we really need to build a brand to something which we know is genuinely authentic to us, and that we can live, back up and live by and for as long as the business runs, really. Yeah. So I hope it's useful. Do you have time for one last question, or?
We don't actually have any more in the chat, and I think we're probably going to have to call it a day, unfortunately. But I will be following up with everyone via Eventbrite with our standard follow-up email, which has a link to a feedback form that we would really appreciate it if you guys fill out. I will also include Francois's contact details and the link to the scorecard there as well, if you would like that as well. Francois does deliver sessions with us very regularly. It's a really good topic, really useful, as I'm sure you've all seen today. So do keep an eye on our social media and Eventbrite as well for future events. But for now, I say thank you very much, Francois, and thank you everyone for joining today. Hope you enjoyed the session, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you, everybody.
Merci, François.
Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye-bye,
Bye-bye.
all. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, François.
Thank you.